Alright, next 10. On this tutorial, where we left off, use destructuring assignment to assign variables from nested objects. Okay. Object name, another set of curlies. Object name, another set of curlies, alternate names. Replace the two assignments with the equivalent destructuring. Today low, today high. Okay, so we need to say const and today lone high. Just had to delete that. Use destructuring to assign variables from arrays. Yeah, that's what I was getting into. Okay. Use destructuring assignment to swap the values of A and B so that A receives the value of B and B receives the value of A. So const it's funny because they're not an array unless I put them in one. So A is just a number, B is just a number. So maybe so on the right it's an array, so I don't even, maybe we go 6, 8. A has already been declared. Well, it doesn't want me to change that. So we'll just say AB equals become A. There we go. So my flaw was that I was trying to redeclare the variables that were already declared. Here we're just kind of reassigning instead of redeclaring. Make sense? Okay, the rest elements, destructuring via rest. And so here's our source, 1 through 10. Okay, let's read. In some situations, collect the rest of the elements into a separate array. So we say, hey, A is 1, B is 2, and then this array is the rest. So 1, 2, and then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's why that's called the rest operator. Destructuring variables A and B take the first, and after that, because of the rest syntax, ARR gets the rest of the values from an array. The rest element works correctly as the last, only works correctly as the last, as in you cannot use the rest syntax to catch a sub array that leaves out the element of the original. Use destructuring should return a subarray of the original array list with the first 2 elements omitted. Change this line. Oh, okay. I'm gonna say what? Change this line shorter list. So we send in the array in as list, and we need to take off the first 2 elements. So we'll do something like A, B, comma, shorter list equals list sub 0, list sub 1, comma, spread, or the rest of list. So shorter list should be assigned what's left after taking off the first 2 elements. Destructuring on list. Oh, well, that's what I tried. Oh, well, I'm silly. I think we just put list in here. And then A will go to the first element, B will go to the second element, and then dot, 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 the rest will go into shorter list. There we go. Maybe because it's array, we take it out of the brackets. There we go. Because it's already an array, took it out of the brackets. Made a couple mistakes there. It's interesting, you know, because over here, this is just making an array of ints. And since this is already an array of ints down here, I didn't need to put another set of brackets around it up here, because it was already an array of ints down here sent in. That was my mistake. A couple mistakes on that one, but that's okay. Use destructuring to pass an object as a function's parameter. So here's our object. In some cases you can destructure the object in a function argument itself. So here's our function, it takes in some data, and so we're just taking in an object and destructuring that object. This effectively destructures the object, so here we can just, take the inputs and just destructure it right on the parameter. That's cool. Done that a time or two, so it does look familiar. When profile data is passed to the above function, the values are destructured. Use destructuring within the argument to the function half to send max and min, so it sends only max and min. So here we replace that with max and min. Destructuring should be used. So the parameters right here. So now you have the variables, you just say max, there. Had to change the body as well. Create strings using template literals. Okay, so we've done this many times already. So here is template literal. So you got the backticks and you got the $ curlies. Backticks, not quotes. Secondly, notice the string is multi-line. This saves a \n. $ variable is used as a placeholder. You won't have to use the plus concatenation operator anymore. To add variables to strings, you just drop the variable in a template string. Similarly, you can include other expressions, a plus b. This is a new way of creating strings. Use template literal syntax with backticks to create an array of list element li strings. Each list element should be one array element from the failure property right here on the result object, and have a class attribute with text warning. The makeList function should return the array of list items in a string. So below this line, above this line, failure items. Return failure items. Use an iterator method, any kind of loop. Okay, so we're going to loop through each failure item. Okay, so we do have 3 failure items. Failure items. So I can't use a for each, I'm going to use a for loop. Okay, so we're looping through the length of result.failure, which is 3. So this is looping 3 times. Each time we're adding to a failure items array the string li class of text warning result failure sub I, which would be no var on top line break, and then returning. So you pass to make list, you pass result.failure in. Now I am noticing they're passing result.failure in into the make list array, so probably here I can just say arr.length. And that would then become arr sub I. And there you go. Okay, menu. Let's take a look at our 10 items here. One, two, three, four, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1 nested objects, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Create a module script will be the last one. Write a concise object literal declaration using object property shorthand. So here's a function, it takes 2 inputs, it returns an object with those values. GetMousePosition is a simple function that returns an object containing 2 properties. ES6 provides the syntax sugar to eliminate the redundancy of having to write x:x. You can simply write x once and you will be converted to x, the property : x, yes, or something equivalent under the hood. Here's the same function above rewritten using the new syntax. So 2 inputs, an output of x:x, y:y. Use object shorthand to create and return an object with name, age, and gender properties. It's already got the curly, so we say name, age, comma. Gender. Return. Bring this back what it had before. So in this case, there we go. Because it had those curly braces there, the syntax was a little different. Write concise declarative functions. Okay, so here's when defining functions within objects in ES5, we have to use the word function. So here's a person object, and there's a method of the person that says say hello, and it returns a string. With ES6, you can remove the function keyword and colon altogether. So here's a function called say hello. It's just got some curly braces, and it returns hello. This is name Taylor. My name is Taylor. Refactor the set gear function inside the bicycle to use a shorthand. So set gear, get rid of the colon. So set gear takes one input and assigns the gear field equal to the new value. And we're off. Use the class syntax to define a constructor function. ES5, an object can be created defining a constructor function using the new keyword to instantiate an object. In ES6, a class declaration has a constructor method that is invoked with a new keyword. If the constructor method is not explicitly defined, then it is implicitly defined with no arguments, and so very object-oriented. C#-like. Okay, so here's our explicit constructor. Here's our class. Here's a constructor method that takes an input and sets a field. Okay, implicit. Here's a class called Rocket. Doesn't have a constructor, so there's a no arg. So here is a new space shuttle called Jupiter. Here's a new constructor, Atlas, prints to the moon and the council to the moon. Yeah, so okay. It should be noted that the class keyword declares a new function to which a constructor is added. This constructor is invoked when the new keyword is called to create a new object. Upper camel case should be used by convention on class names like Java and C#, Space Shuttle. Also called Pascal casing. The constructor method is a special method for creating and initialize objects created with a class. You will learn more about object-oriented programming. Okay. Use the class keyword and write a constructor to create a vegetable class. The vegetable class allows you to create a vegetable object with a name that gets passed into the constructor. Change below, change above. So we're going to create a class called vegetable, I think is what it said. And we need an explicit constructor because it needs an input. The vegetable class allows you to create a vegetable object with a name that gets passed into the constructor. And so, constructor, name, or call it veg name. And you set this dot name equal to veg name. See, vegetable object with a name property that gets passed to the constructor. Yep. Okay, two more. Getters and setters. You can obtain values from an object and set the value of a property within an object. These are called getters and setters. So here's a method that returns a property. This is one that modifies a property. This is very object-oriented, old-school Java, like keyword get, keyword set. Getter functions are return a value. Setter functions. So yeah, this goes into like data hiding and hiding your instance fields and setting your instance fields and accessing them through controlled methods. Setter functions are meant to modify or set the value of an object's private variable based on the value that's passed. This change could involve calculations or even overriding the previous value completely. So we create a book. This writer, novel writer, this is a set to a new author. So here we construct a book called anonymous, sets the author, gets anonymous, modifies the writer, and updates the writer to new author. Notice the syntax used to invoke the getter and setter. They do not even look like functions. Very true, they don't have the parentheses. Getters and setters are important because they hide internal implementation details. It is convention to precede the name of a private variable with an underscore. However, the practice itself does not make a variable private. Use the class keyword to create a thermostat. The constructor accepts the Fahrenheit temp. We'll call it F temp. And the class created a getter to obtain the temperature in Celsius and a setter to set a temperature in Celsius. Okay, so you pass in the F temp, but create a getter to obtain the temperature in Celsius. Okay, so we'll set, this dot C temp equals F temp. So what's our conversion? We'll call F temp. So we're kind of setting the C temp when you construct our thermostat. Let's have a get in the class, create a getter as you should. Now, I don't know if it wants me to set the F temp and then do the conversion in the getter, or if I'm just doing this. Let's do this underscore C temp. So it might not be happy with my solution here. So that's okay. It's called writer. Get C temp. Return this dot underscore C temp. And set C temp. Takes an input F temp. It's the same calculation. So here we pass in 76. Oh, this needs to be called temperature. So our functions, there we go. calling the setter should set the temperature. So set well, I guess I didn't understand the requirements. It says calling the setter with a Celsius value should set the temperature. So so I was assuming we're setting the temperature, you're passing in C temp. So then here would just be literally just passing in the Celsius temp. Yeah. I thought you were passing the Fahrenheit temp, but so the constructor takes a Fahrenheit temp, and then otherwise you're just getting and setting. And last one, creating a module script. JavaScript started with a small role to play on the HTML. Today it's huge, and some websites are built entirely with JavaScript. In order to make JavaScript more modular, clean, and maintainable, ES6 introduced a way to share code amongst files. We've been doing this. This involves exporting parts of the file for use in one or more other files and importing the parts you need where you need them. In order to take advantage of this functionality, you need to create a script in your HTML document with a type of module. Here's an example. A script that uses a module type can use the import and export features that you will learn about and add a script. Well, next challenge. And we'll stop here and just resume on the third part.